So this leads on to agenda item 1, apologies for absence and declaration of substitute members.
Thank you, Madam. There's an apology from Councillor Jim Lord, but no declaration of any substitute.
Thank you. Item 2, disclosure of interest. To deal with any disclosure by members of any disclosable pecuniary interest and interest other than pecuniary interest is defined under the C4 Town Council Code of Conduct and Localism Act 2011 in relation to matters on the agenda. Anybody? I just want to mention that I'm a member of the Rotary Club and would have an interest on the agenda item 5, but no pecuniary interest. Item 3, public participation. To deal with any questions or brief presentations from members of the public in accordance with C4 Town Council policy and the local authorities and police and crime panels, coronavirus, flexibility of the local authority and police and crime panel meetings, England and Wales Regulations 2020. In accordance with C4 Town Council policy, members of the public wishing to speak on individual planning applications may do so immediately before each planning application. So any members of the public like to speak at this time on non-planning issues? No. So we move on to planning applications received in the week commencing Monday the 7th of December 2020. LW/20/0773 11 Rodmell Road, and this is the erection of first floor side extension and garage conversion. Any members of the public like to comment on this application? Open it up to the committee. Who would like to lead on this one? Any takers? Councillor Edson?
Yeah, it seems straightforward to me. I can't see anything on there that's controversial, if that's how people feel.
Does that find a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Honeyman. Any other comments? I'll put it to the vote to support this application. Have a show of hands, please.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's supported unanimously. Thank you.
LW/20/0772 34 Quarry Lane. Demolition of the site lean-to, erection of a single-storey rear extension, erection of a single-storey rear garage extension, internal alterations and associated hard and soft landscaping works. Any members of the public like to comment on this application? Open to the committee. Councillor Borman?
Yeah, I'd like to support this application. Looking at it, neighbours have set precedents with converting their garages already, and the single-storey extensions at the rear aren't overly obtrusive to the garden, so I'd like to support it.
Thank you. Does that find a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Everton. And any other comments? And can I have a show of hands of supporting this application?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's supported unanimously.
Thank you. LW/20/0845 14 Bramber Road. Part section 73A retrospective, I'll get it right in there, retrospective application to retain safety rails to the flat roof and reconfigure roof construction to create gable ends below the hips. Any members of the public? Yes, Mrs. Livings, would you like to speak now?
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, firstly, thank you for your support to my application last time. I'm resubmitting unchanged because I do not believe this application was properly considered in Lewes. No officer visited, despite the fact that the application clearly stated it was necessary to fully understand this proposal. A gopher came to take photographs, but informed me that he would be unable to explain them to the planners. Refusal came just 24 hours after this visit and without any discussion whatsoever with my agent. Before lodging this application, I visited all my neighbours to show them the plans and to explain them, and no objections were raised by them. I revisited after the refusal with the plans and some simple petitions in favour of the proposals, to which I have several signatures. The application was refused firstly on the grounds of overlooking and privacy, and these issues would in fact be improved by this work, as is clearly stated on the application. Secondly, the issue of excess glazing leaves me somewhat bewildered. South-facing windows, especially high ones, bring free light and heat into the building, as I know from my ground and first floor windows, thereby helping considerably with my carbon footprint. Roof lights have the same effect. As to the appearance of the building, this proposal has much less dark, heavy tile work on the south elevation and more cream render, which will be lighter to look at and more in keeping with the rest of the street. Finally, a brief comment on the retrospective aspect of my safety rails. As they are a lighter and different configuration to my approved balcony area, which is in fact contained, they are simply to prevent falls during maintenance, and I was unaware that planning permission would be necessary. I'm not requesting change of use for this area. One great bonus of these rails is that number 103 on Stane Road and myself no longer stare into each other's bedroom windows. My plan is to die in this house, but not for at least another 30 years. So we're looking at my long-term occupancy. So I do very much hope you can once more give your support to my application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Livings.
Thank you. Thank you. Shall I mute again?
Yes, please. Thank you. Right, so open to the committee.
I think Christine Brett is wanting to speak as well.
Oh, sorry. Christine, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yeah, apologies.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I just want to say that Mrs. Livings contacted me after her rejection in the autumn, and I have actually paid a visit to her property, and I concur with what she said, particularly about 103, the property behind, because the alterations we're talking about look at the back, not onto the road. But what I want to really say is I'm really disappointed because Mrs. Livings hasn't had the usual service that LDC would provide, and they explained that in an email apology they sent to her agent. And this was apparently partly down to COVID restrictions, but also I feel it's due to the staff shortages that they've had for quite a long time now, but those are currently being rectified. So they are hoping, and I'm hoping, that she will get proper service with this resubmission. I hope you'll continue to support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right. Okay, so open to the committee, and I've got Councillor Mead first.
This is probably redundant to say it, but what I'd written down on to do with this was that I couldn't see. It was difficult to see what the impact for the neighbours was going to be, but as Mrs. Livings has said, that the neighbours aren't in any way objecting. Obviously, that answers my query. But I just wanted to say that that was my only consideration. But it seems that is answered now. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Did I see your hand, Councillor Everton? No, Councillor Honeyman.
Yes, looking at the looking at the property literally now. I mean, there's the railings is obviously fairly substantial. Are there like plastic bits to the south of the? I couldn't quite work out. I mean, the railings are there. They're about 3 or 4 sort of slats along, but there's no plastic bits around the side of it. And no, right, okay, that's absolutely fine. I can understand what's going on now, and I'm quite happy to still support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? So can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Meek, and seconded by Councillor Honeyman. And if there's no other comments, can I have a show of hands of supporting this application?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's supported again unanimously, 7 votes to 0.
Thank you. Right, moving on to LW/20/0815 to Homefield Road. Removal of high level cladding and side conservatory. New external cladding to the first floor and formation of entrance and side canopy. Any members of the public like to comment on this application? And therefore open to the committee. Councillor Meek.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to support this application. The property happens to be round the corner from me. I don't actually know the people at all, but it would certainly, what they're wanting to do would fit in very well with the area. I think actually, to be honest, I think it'll improve the look of the building, and it's certainly not out of character. So I would like to support this application.
Thank you, Councillor Meek. Does that find a seconder? Councillor Borman. Any other comments? Yeah, I must admit, when I first saw this plan, I was total agreement with Councillor Meek. In fact, I thought it enhanced the house. It really does, you know, sort of being done sympathetic. Jeff.
Well, just to Councillor Meek, I think it's worth mentioning, rather than just supporting the application, mentioning that, you know, that the committee did consider it an improvement, and you know, within the character of the area, would enhance the area, because I think they have made an effort to do that, and I think from what members are saying, I think that should be added, just a simple support of the application to sort of give it a bit more strength. Is that okay?
Yeah, agreement, Councillor Meek and Councillor Board. Yeah. So can I have a show of hands of supporting this application and comments?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's unanimous again. 7 votes supported.
Thank you. Planning applications received commencing Monday the 14th of December. LW/20/0807 84 Marine Parade. Any members of the public like to comment on this application? And can I open to the committee? Councillor Edson.
Yeah, it seems straightforward to me. I don't see any reason why we can't approve this one.
Thank you. And does that find a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Honeyman. And if no other comments, can I have a show of hands for supporting this application?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 again. 7 unanimously supported.
Thank you. Planning applications received in the week commencing Monday the 21st of December. LW/20/0833 11 Chinkton Gardens, proposed single-storey rear extension. Any members of the public like to comment on this application? Open to the committee. Councillor Borman.
Thank you, Chair. I don't see any problems with this extension, and we'll support it.
Thank you. Does that find a seconder? Thank you, councillor Everton. Any other comments? And can I have a show of hands in supporting this application?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 again. Supported unanimously.
Thank you. LW/20/0799 Elm Court, Flatchington Road, erection of 9 new dwellings and associated infrastructure. Any members of the public like to comment on this application? Open to the committee. Councillor Bowman.
I was looking at the some of the objections to this, and they were saying that it was too many properties. But I know Seaford Neighbourhood Plan that for Elm Court was for 9 properties, so there's no objections to that. The design of the buildings, though, I really don't like. I think it is out of keeping with that area. You've got the beautiful ponds, you've got the conservation area right nearby, and then you've got those. That's what I don't like.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Councillor Hanneman.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, as we've already given outline permission on a previous application, I mean, and so 9's been given on the neighbourhood plan, as Councillor Bowman just rightly said. I think it's a shame in a way you can't develop the whole of that Dane Valley project in one foul swoop, but we have to do it bit by bit because that's what we've got in front of us. So I would, yes, I can understand about the actual design. There's been different ones going around, hasn't there, over the last so many years. But I'd be happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other Councillor Edson?
Yes, I'd just like to say, could we get them to use permeable surfacing, you know, where in the car parking areas, to reduce minor flooding? And also, was there any facilities for charging points for electric cars?
Yeah.
Was there? I didn't.
Yes.
It was. Oh, good. Yeah.
And solar panels.
Yeah, well, they've done everything they can to alleviate flood damage by building it on 3 stories, and all the reports. Let's hope that it doesn't go that way. But I agree with Councillor Bowman. It looks to me like either a row of Kellogg's packets or a row of computers, and there's nothing to be said for the architectural beauty of this development. I mean, they're going to use grey bricks as well. Could we have that? Is that something that we could make comment about? That the actual bricks they were going to use?
Well, I mean, you've got a free hand really about the design. I mean, although, you know, design matters design objections don't carry that much weight usually. The principles established, but I think you've got scope here for maybe acknowledging that even if a contemporary design is not unwelcome, you know, you're not like Prince Charles trying to sort of recreate Victorian townhouses or something like that. Well, not that he's wrong, but anyway, a contemporary design is not objected to, but just matters within that design, like the stark colour, and this sort of I don't know how you describe it. It's rather featureless. You know, it could be livened up a bit, but still, it still have that contemporary approach that they're looking for. But it is very much a matter of individual taste. As I say, that at least they haven't sort of copied things and done a pastiche, but which is you know, shows a bit of ambition, but within that there's, you know, obviously quite a bit to criticize if you want to, and I'm sure they'll be taken note of. Any comments?
Yeah, I mean I'm in agreement with Councillor Bowman. I don't like the design. I mean, they've ticked all the boxes about you know, solar panels, charging, and sort of having the living area on the first floor rather than on the ground floor to, you know, to avoid, you know, the homes being flooded. But and sort of the retaining the plinth wall around there, all the plus points. But it's just the design. I know it's just featureless. I mean, I like contemporary, but contemporary can have a nice design, and this isn't. It's just boxes. I think I've got Councillor Meek and then Councillor Everton. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I completely agree with you, Chair, and with Councillor Boorman, and with Jeff. Yes, I think it's partly brutish by design, but I think it's more brutish by the fact of the materials they're using. I mean, I know that anthracite is very in at the moment, and dark grey bricks and dark blue bricks, but it's very austere. And I'm wondering, can we suggest that in order, if they want to keep this particular design, can they not do a living wall instead on the faces that you see? It would be wonderful to have living wall, then you have a green surface, you have trailing plants. This has been done so much in London and all over the world. I'm sure it's not beyond the scope of them to be able to put at least some living walls in place. I did notice on one of the main facing walls on Blatchington Road, they've suggested that there are creepers climbing up the wall in the drawing, at least. So I mean, if that starkness could be alleviated by vegetation, I think that would certainly improve it a lot. I have to say I was quite impressed with, the lengths they've gone to alleviate flooding and to think about that side of it. And I think that is a good use of that site, because, as we all know, there may not have been historically much flooding recently, but going forward, a matter of 20, 30 years, I think we can all guarantee that there may well be flooding out there. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Everton?
Yeah, I really just wanted to agree with the comments about the design. I really like contemporary design, but the thing about contemporary design, really modern contemporary design, is that it's quite clean looking, and it doesn't go out of fashion. Modern contemporary actually doesn't go out of fashion as it ages, whereas I actually feel that this design would sort of become out of fashion and look a little bit, it's a little bit Orwellian, and I think that it actually doesn't do what contemporary design is, which is not go out of fashion, remain modern looking. I don't think this design achieves that.
Thank you, Councillor Everton. Any other comments? So I need a proposer. Councillor Honeyman, you're going to propose that we.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to put that proviso in with the colour scheme a little bit. We're quite happy to mention that in the we're allowed to do subject to. Is that a little bit, or more of a comment as opposed to?
Yeah, it's more of a comment. I mean,
yeah.
What I've gathered up from the comments is that well, I think it has to be taken as read that the principle is established through the allocation.
We did that previously anyway, didn't we?
That needn't really be mentioned, but that the committee were not necessarily against a contemporary design in principle, but found this design rather stark, and that it required a few more features to soften it, such as a living wall with trailing plants, to make its impact less austere, or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't go too far, but it just makes your views known. Is that?
I'm happy with that. Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
I'm thankful to Councillor Meek for the word austere, because I was looking for another word other than stark to put in there as well. But I think austere is a good word. Well, it seems to tie in with a lot of the comments that were made. So something along those lines.
Yeah. Councillor Meek?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to make it a bit more forceful than that in some way, because I think Councillor Boorman's right. It is on the very edge of the conservation area, and the pond is just there. and people will look across, sitting on those benches at the pond. And therefore, I do think it does have to have something done to the fabric of the building to change the way it looks in some way, to soften it, as you said, Jeff. So I don't know, is it possible to say we are in favour of it, but only only if they do something about, and does that mean that they have to come back to us to get our approval, or I don't know, how does this work? But I'm strongly of the opinion that it has to be not just, oh yeah, it's okay if you do a little bit of softening. That will just not carry any weight, I don't feel.
Fine. Well, do you want to mention the colour of the brickwork as well? Is that sort of general consensus? Is it the dark grey? It just doesn't sort of blend in with the general area. Yes.
Jeff, I'm just thinking to be more forceful, we're either for this or we're against it. I mean, if we vote against it, we can make the comment that in principle, you know, we agree to the dwellings, but we don't agree to the design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's out of character to the
Nail our colours to the mast, as you said. Yeah.
Absolutely out of character.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because it is an important corner, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, we've got Councillor Honeyman's supporting the application on the table. Councillor Honeyman, do you want?
I'm just looking at the ACOM design statement in front of me, which we discussed obviously last December with that after Keith Blackburn's presentation. And when you look at the Dane Valley, I mean, obviously Councillor Mix mentioned the Bletchley Pond, but if you go to the other side, of course, you've got the various flats and apartments on the right hand side looking to the north, haven't you, or northeast direction. Now, they're more sort of browny designs, aren't they? Looking at the more, is it? I mean, do you want to be more specific on the colour, or should we just say grey is a little bit? Yeah,
so a softer colour, yes. I think brown or brown or red in the brick.
Yeah, reddy browny, that sort of oaky looking sort of, that fits in probably better, doesn't it? If you're going to be Pacific, but I think as the principles we've made of the principle, I mean that's the weight of the actual colour is probably quite minimal anyway. If we really object to it on the colour.
The previous application was sort of a reddy brown.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah, the outline was, wasn't it, Chair? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, looking at the design statement, it's more browns, isn't it? It does seem to be. You know, they designed for the town.
Yeah. So, are you still proposing to support this application, Councillor Honeyman?
I'd still support it. Yeah, even if it's grey. But I just put a comment in. Because ultimately, it's not our decision anyway. It does go back to Lewis, so we'd see what happened.
Can I have a seconder for Councillor Honeyman's application for supporting this application? Well, there's no seconder, so that.
Okay, I'll drop that. Thank you.
Okay, right. So, Councillor Everton.
Yeah, I think the more I look at it and the more we talk about it, I am not against the design. Not against putting housing there. I think it's, I think the 9 dwellings is fine. I'm really against the design. I think it's not. I think it's really, contemporary buildings can slot in between 2 Victorian buildings beautifully if they're well designed. And I think this is a poor contemporary design that is actually not in keeping and reduces the beauty of the area rather than enhances it. And we don't want that. We're quite happy to have dwellings there, but we don't want something that's just ugly. No. or it doesn't. It's so. I don't know. It's really a barren, sort of unwelcoming design, I find, and I think that there's lots of things that they can do to tweak it to make it much nicer. And so I'm actually want to propose to not approve the application, but make it clear it's just based on the look of the building rather than the actual idea of them being.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Meek.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to second Councillor Everton, but I wonder if we can cite the planning guidelines that Keith pointed out to us, because these are part of the neighbourhood plan and how the planning, you know, is supposed to go in this area. And I think we could cite that as being it's not in keeping with the area and it's not using any traditional materials. And actually, one of the people who objected did say surely they could be using some traditional colours and materials. So that was your local resident, I think, put in one of the objections there, did cite that, so that we could note that from a local resident, I think. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Honeyman?
I mean, just coming back to the Dane Valley, there are you can use grey tiles and grey render looking at that in the area, looking at the design. So if you're going to look at an up-to-date design standards, it can be an option, the grey colour. There we are.
Thank you. So we've got a proposal on the table to objecting to this application, although we support the 9 dwellings, but find that the design is out of keeping to the area, especially being adjacent to the conservation area.
Mm-hmm.
Enhance on that at all, Jeff?
Yeah, it was you're not against contemporary design in principle in the right area, but this area requires something more in keeping with the general character of the area, both in design and materials, and the proposals don't achieve that. The enhancing the character of the area, they have an unacceptable impact. They would have an unacceptable impact on the character of the area rather than in doing anything to enhance it. Something along those lines. You want to mention that the design and the color and the materials, really, don't you? Yeah.
Councillor Everton? Yeah.
Yeah, I think
yes, because I want to make it clear that we're not anti-contemporary design.
Exactly.
I don't want them to put up a row of Victorian terraces there, you know. But it's contemporary design that is more sympathetic,
more sympathetic
to
to the character of the area.
Yeah,
yeah, fine. I can work something on that along those lines.
I'm just wondering if we can, you know, sort of please that they have included solar panels and electric car link up, and you know,
and the false ground floor.
Yeah.
Fine.
Councillor Honeyman?
Yeah, just finally, you can't specifically mention the colour. Is that not really relevant to actually specifically mention that neighbourhood plan design?
Well, yeah, the colour of the materials. I mean, I'll look at the design guide.
Yeah.
And get some material out of the design guide for this area. And I'm sure, you know, that'll help as well.
Yeah, as you say, I'm sure there's.
There is.
I think generally there's more reds and browns in that area than the greys, isn't it? That's what it's looking at. And if it's predominantly grey, you could argue yes, it is probably a bit more the other way, really.
Yeah.
So that's not to say we can't have any grey in that design, but it's just the whole. It's almost the whole lot, isn't it? The whole building, isn't it? Effectively. So
you've given me enough to go on.
Okay. Thank you. That's fine. Thank
you. Okay, so I'll put it to the vote to reject this application on the grounds we've discussed. Can I have a show of hands, please?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's a unanimous objection on those grounds. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to LW/20/0853 10 Bracken Road, erection of a 2-storey side/rear extension. Any members of the public like to comment on this application? Open to the committee. Councillor Meek.
I thought this was perfectly reasonable application. I don't think there's any grounds to object to this. It seems to me to be fairly in keeping and not overbearing. So I would support it.
Okay, thank you. Does that find a seconder? Councillor Edson, I think it's just first. Councillor Honeyman, did you want to comment on this? Okay, and can I have a show of hands of supporting this application?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's supported unanimously.
Thank you. LW/20/0847 61 Cookmere Road, first floor, rear extension. Any members of the public like to comment on this application? Open to the committee. Councillor Edson.
Yes, Chair, I think this is a straightforward rear extension. Nothing, I can't see anything that's too out of keeping with this in any way. Don't know how others feel about it, but it's okay by me.
Okay, so you're proposing to support?
Yep.
Thank you. Does that find a seconder? Councillor Everton, and any other comments? And can I have a show of hands of support?
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
It was unanimous.
7. Unanimous. Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
Just writing.
LW/20/0820 2 Fitzgerald Avenue, erection of a single-storey dwelling. Any members of the public like to comment on this application? Open to the committee. Councillor Borman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This is a large plot with a large garden, and looking at the plans, it would fit an additional property, but then it leaves no garden for what, or next to no garden. And I think that's actually wrong, because all the other properties around the area, they've got gardens and things, and this seems to leave none for either property.
Mm.
Councillor Edson.
Could it be seen as infill?
Yeah, I mean, it fits in quite nicely, and well, as I say, it's not, I haven't got much of a garden, but then there are a lot of people who don't want to do a lot of gardening, but
No, that's true.
you know, yeah.
Yeah, I looked at the size of the gardens myself when looking at it. I think it depends which way you look. Steen Road has got more substantial properties on larger plots, but there are quite a few smaller townhouses off Steen Road in this area, and I think you have to take into account, maybe, as Linda said, not everyone wants a garden, but it is in an area where it's on the edge of the downs and close to the seafront, which I think also comes into play as well. I think that if there's enough room for a house and a reasonable amount of amenity land around it in this situation, although it's probably not ideal, I don't think it's enough to justify objecting to it. But you know, I that's one of the first things I look for, to see what garden was left for the host property and what garden would be given to the new property. It is quite a small property, it's quite low profile, that's one thing. But as I say, in the general area, I don't think it's, I think the character is for more smaller gardens, as I say, with the townhouses that are behind Steen Road, and this goes towards that area rather than Steen Road itself. So, as I say, it's a sort of a balance, really. And although I thought the garden was a bit small, probably not small enough, as I say, to justify going against it. But that's just a view, as I say. And I don't think the size of the garden would necessarily justify a refusal on its own. It's often a reason which is added to a more substantial reason. For example, the house being out of character with the area, you know, town cramming, or they like to call it, rather than proper planning. And this just doesn't quite get to that stage, I don't think.
I think because it's a single story dwelling, the garden might not be so important as if it was a house where it's, you know, it's a family where you would probably need that area. I mean, I'm just thinking that, you know, maybe somebody with, you know, have, you know, difficulties, disablement or something, it would, you know, be ideal because it's a single story. But just a thought. Did I see Councillor Meeks' hand up?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I didn't write my notes very well. Is this the one that is painted white? I think it's. I just wondered if it was a little bit Costa del Sol for the area. I'm not sure. What do other people think about the design?
I think we're going back to contemporary, aren't we? Jeff, can you unmute yourself, please?
I think as a bungalow, I mean, if it were a larger house, that might be a concern, you know, but as a bungalow, I think it's quite low, as I said, low profile and quite neat. And it doesn't really stand out. It's just, and as Linda said, it's very small, really only 2 bedrooms, although I think only 1 bedroom referred to, and a study or something on the floor plan. So it's definitely a contemporary townhouse, which is not a bad thing, mixing in with the other sort of houses around the area.
Oh. Councillor Honeyman?
Yes, I'm still slightly confused. I mean, you're talking about it's a separate dwelling, but it is attached to the main house, isn't it? No, it's not going to say. So that's what I was a little bit confused about. I think that if it goes to if it goes to the south of the property, which is what it is, isn't it? So you basically still got the front garden on this corner plot. But I can look at it. They actually want it for an office, don't they? As such, is that right? Is it?
Can you?
Yeah, it looks to be like a work office sort of place.
I'm going to say, but obviously you don't want it like a granny flat.
Now, what you'd think would be the 2nd bedroom looks to be down as a work study area. So that's I had a quick look at the floor plan today just to see.
But I mean, the actual area, as you say, is quite a mix of houses along Fitzgerald Avenue, isn't it? I mean, it's quite all sorts of different designs along there, so it would fit in okay.
Yeah. I mean, Jeff, this one had pre-application advice.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Mentioning that. Yeah, they did approach the officer, quite a senior officer at Eastbourne Lewis, Anna Clare, and she gave quite a supportive response. They did bother to make a pre-application inquiry, which a lot of applicants don't do that for fear that they get an adverse comment back. And she said, you know, given the right sort of design, a low profile design, it does fit in, and these sort of windfall applications, they do cumulatively help to to get our housing requirement. There's quite an emphasis on allowing windfalls, and I think if it can be fitted in, and she obviously thought it could without having an adverse impact, then you know, it shouldn't be refused. But as I say, on policy terms, she supported it, and it's set out in full in the supporting statement.
Right. So can I have a proposal that I'm going to go to supporting this application? If anybody would like to, Councillor Everton, proposing to support this application. Yeah. Does that find a seconder? Councillor Argent And can I have a show of hands of supporting this application?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 in support.
Those against
That's carried 5-1.
and abstaining, and one
With
abstention.
one abstention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. LW/20/0770 to Lucinda Way. Loft conversion to include raising the ridge height and the south-facing Juliet balcony. Installation of 3 dormers in west elevation and 2 roof lights in the east elevation. Any members of the public like to comment on this application? Open to the committee. Councillor Edson.
Yes, Chair. Looking at the bungalows in the area, I fear that, you know, if we allowed this one to go through, then who knows what will happen next. You know, how many people are going to come along and want to put a second story on their bungalow, and then I just think that it's like opening Pandora's box with this one, to be quite honest. You know, I just don't think it's right. That's my gut feeling on this one.
That was exactly my concerns. It would set precedent. Councillor Borman.
Yeah, thank you. I totally agree, and it's out of keeping with the area. They're all bungalows. If you start increasing roof sizes and the amount of dormers that they want, then yeah, what's going to happen in the future? So overdevelopment and out of keeping with the area.
Yes, it's the roof. The height is at least a metre increase, just over a metre, having scaled it off, and that will have an impact. I mean, at the moment, it's they're quite modest bungalows, and it does have some sort of character, a sort of a nice modest character, if you like, individual bungalows on reasonable plots. And I think raising the roof a metre in height, and the thing is, you know, everyone would like to have more accommodation in their roofs, and if one did it, then the others will be tempted. When really, it sounds cruel, but what you're saying, you should be saying really, is that if you want more accommodation, you have to move rather than you know, raise your roof and do all these other different things to it, because it does have an impact on the character of the area.
Yeah, and being on the corner as well. Yeah. Councillor Meek.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to play devil's advocate here, because yes, I understand exactly what you're saying, but what if they had just asked to put in 2 thrust dormers either side, as opposed to raising the roof, and they would then still do a loft conversion? And actually, I find that thrust dormers look pretty ugly anyway. I was actually thought, okay, I understand what you're all saying, and I respect that. But actually, I thought if you do raise the roof, I thought the windows that they put in were actually quite attractive. And although I understand what you're saying, I thought they were making a play for trying to keep the integrity of a roof line, as opposed to making thrusts out of the roof line, which make it so obviously a loft extension. I just put that out there as a contrary opinion.
Well, I think with the current design of the houses, it's quite a low pitch. If you're going to provide accommodation in the roof, you need to raise the roof by this metre at least. The dormers and roof lights obviously come in to supply light to that area. But it's the raising of the roof, I think, which is the factor. You know, you'll be looking across these bungalows with quite a low pitch, and this one will be sticking out like a sore thumb. And just because, I mean, bungalows get a lot of stick, you know, that they're supposed to be featureless and everything. Well, you know, I think that's undeserved really, because bungalows can give an area just as much character as any other sorts of property. And I think here you've got that sort of modest character, but you'd have this house right at the front of the close. You know, it's not just a few, it's not a fraction of a metre, it's not less than half a metre, it's a whole metre. It's about a third on top. And it just, to my mind, it would just go a bit too far. You sympathise with people who want more accommodation and don't want to move, and sometimes it can be achieved and sometimes it can't. I don't really think it can be achieved here, but as I say, that's just a view.
Well, as I say, I mean, I did look on the, you know, the street scene, and they're all in keeping. And I also checked on the to see if any neighbouring properties had done anything similar, you know, come out onto the roof, and there's no applications. So this, you know, it looks as though this would be the first, and I just feel it will set the precedent as for, you know, a nice neighbourhood. Councillor Honeyman.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I agree with you. I mean, I'd be more happier with a one-bedroom sort of dormer. So one dormer without raising it a metre, and then I can see why they want to do that, but balcony as well, because obviously it's south-facing and everything generally, so you can, it's pointing towards the sea direction. But it's too excessive as it currently stands, and especially on that corner plot. So I couldn't support what it is at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. So can I have a proposal on this application, please? Councillor Borman?
Yeah, I propose that we object to the application.
Do you want to elaborate, like saying, or, you know, set precedent?
Obviously set precedent, overdevelopment, out of character with the area.
And on the street scene.
Yeah, raising of the roof. And I won't say set a precedent, I'll say make it more difficult to resist similar applications for other houses in the area, because yeah, the planning officers don't like the word precedent. It sort of gets, they always say there's no precedent in planning, but we all know that there is. But so you just put it in a slightly more tactful way, make it more difficult to resist similar applications. Okay.
You happy with that, Councillor Borman? Does that find a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Edson. And can I have a show of hands, please?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favour of the objection.
Those against?
That's
and those abstaining.
Councillor Meek abstaining. 6 votes.
Thank you. LW/20/0817, the Cottage Grove Road. Demolition of existing garage and the erection of a two-storey side and rear extension to include a Juliet balcony, internal and external alterations to rear terrace. Any members of the public like to comment on this application? Open to the committee. Councillor Meek.
Sorry, Chair, I just found it really quite difficult to actually understand the implications of the drawings, because I couldn't quite understand what had been taken away and how it had been replaced. I couldn't work out where it had been expanded. So I'm actually not feeling that I'm able to make a decision on this one, because I can't quite understand the drawings. Obviously, I should have trained in some ways in draftsmanship or something.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Meek. Any other comments? Who's got a Councillor Borman?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Looking at it, they're kind of infilling the building with lots of things. Yes, they've got extensions, they're infilling other bits. So actually, and it's hidden away behind hedges and fences mainly, so it's not seen fully from the street, and the size of the plot actually fits it, so I'm quite happy to support the application.
It doesn't seem to go beyond the neighbouring properties either, does it? Although it's a large extension. Any other comments? And does that find a seconder? Councillor Bedson? And can I have a show of hands of supporting this application?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in
Yeah.
favour of
Councillor
supporting.
Meeks, not.
Councillor Meek abstaining.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we move on to agenda item 5, road closure application over the Rainbow Charity Walk, and to consider the report on the road closure required on the 21st of March. I've got a feeling this might not go ahead, but we have to consider it anyway. Councillor Borman and then Councillor Hanneman.
Thank you. I was unsure why they required a road closure. Obviously, it's a charity walk. You've got the promenade right along the Esplanade to Splash Point, and I couldn't see why they'd actually require a road closure. And it didn't say any more in their application as to why a road closure was necessary.
Councillor Argent, do you want to comment on that? Can you unmute yourself, please?
I take on board what Councillor Borman says. You know, there is the parade along that way. The thing being is, like you, I don't think it's going to go ahead anyway. But the thing is, if you've got the planning permission first, if you take it up, you take it up.
I think I think Councillor Argent would back me up. I think they are expecting a big turnout, and that's why they're going for a road closure.
Perhaps it's more like a carnival parade than an ordinary charity walk, and they leave the promenade to the ordinary visitors coming and going, and have the road for what's, you know, there may be floats or something, as far as, you know, we don't know, but it seems like it does seem to me like quite a spectacular event that they're planning anyway. Whether it goes ahead or not, as I said, is another matter.
Councillor Hanneman.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, listening to both Councillors Argent and Borman. Yeah, I'm assuming if it's over the rainbow, is that linked to the sort of post-COVID sort of NHS sort of that side of things? Is it that sort of rainbow we're looking at? So they are expecting a big turnout. That's one question. Yeah, if they are expecting thousands, then yeah, I can see why they do want to have some sort of road closure partly. But you think as they move on, they would filter onto the seafront in a way, wouldn't you? That's what I would have thought. But are we allowed to sort of in principle say it, but would it have to come back if example, the date gets moved to later on in the year, in the summer months, for example, or do we have to come back with the date?
I think it would be.
They'd have to come back, yes, because I mean, the date, you might find the date clash with something else. You know, the police or even the town council might find there's an event planned. So yes, it's specific to that date, and they'd have to come back later if it has to be postponed.
Okay, thanks for that. So I'm happy to support it in its given the situation. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Argent.
It is on a Sunday, by the way.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, so unless there's any other comments, do we support the road closure as it stands at the moment? So can I have a proposer and seconder? Councillor Borman, and seconded by Councillor Hanneman. Show hands, please. Uh,
6 in favour.
Thank you. Those against? Those abstaining?
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you.
The final agenda item 6, update report, and unless there's any comments to note the report, I think we're in sync with LDC.
Nothing controversial there,
No,
except 16 Corsica Road, I remember, was I think the application where the person opposite the crossroads there was
yes, I remember.
about loss of privacy when she was across the road and opposite, which it amused me quite a bit too. But that wasn't controversial. None of the others were controversial, so there's no additional comments there.
Yeah. So, committee happy to note that report? Noted. Lovely. Thank you. And that brings us to the end of this meeting at 20:06.
8:06, yeah. Thank you.